I am a big Zelda fan, and the same thing can be said about the spin-offs. I loved Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity a lot, with a really fun story and gameplay. 2 years later, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment would release. This is the most recent Zelda game as of now, and this might be the last Zelda game from the Wild era. I recently 100% completed this game, which is why I believe that now is the right time to share my thoughts about the game. In this video, I will specifically talk about the story, and I will talk about the gameplay and the characters in other videos, but this one, it will just be on the story. And one more thing, this video has major spoilers for Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and some small spoilers for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. With that said, let's begin. Before I get started, I just want to let you know I am trying to reach a goal of 200 subscribers. If you like my content, please consider subscribing to my channel. I would greatly appreciate your support. This game takes place during Hyrule's first founding. In Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda time traveled all the way back to the past. However, this game does not start with Zelda meeting Rauru. Instead, it starts with Kalamo, a Korok, placing a shard on a construct's chest, who would be known as the Knight Construct later on. This is the introduction of the dynamic duo, who are completely unique to Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Moving on, Zelda would meet Rauru and Sonia, and she will soon find out that she is in the past, after visiting the Hyrule Castle in Great Plateau. In Zelda's training, we would meet Agriston, and we would also fight the Gorons after defeating the Hylian warriors. We will also get to meet Mineru and even Lanalia, who is a new character. They also explore the depths as well. So far, I only talked about Zelda's side, but we also get to see Ganondorf's side as well. Many Gerudos were forced to follow Ganondorf's orders, which included Ardi, who was unwilling to attack the people who wanted peace. They all launch an attack, but Rauru wipes all the Molduga out. This led Ganondorf to create a fake alliance with Rauru, who knew Ganondorf's intentions already. However, Rauru would get baited by Ganondorf when he lured him away from the castle to take Sonia's secret stone. He even betrayed the Gerudo by trying to kill them, except Kalamo and the Construct showed up and saved them, even though we didn't get to see much of them yet. That was also the point where we got to play as the Construct. Overall, pretty cool to see him show up and save the Gerudo, and it appears that Ganondorf also had another Construct that's mostly identical to the Knight Construct, except this one is evil. Rauru also fights this evil Construct in Hyrule Castle when he finally arrives there, and he does defeat the Construct, but the Construct flees away. Now this is where we get an interesting part. While we all know that Sonia will die in Tears of the Kingdom, we also need to remember the plot twist we had in Age of Calamity. Just as when the Blight Ganons were about to demolish the champions, the future champions came out of nowhere and saved them. This created an alternate timeline where the champions were alive. Now, the devs state this countless times that this game is a canonical tale, but I didn't believe until I played it. I played the game, and I'll just share my reaction right here. Alright. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my. No. No way. They were not lying to us. They weren't lying to us. This game is canon. It is canon. Bro, I can't believe I questioned if this game's canon or not. It is canon. Yep, this game is indeed canon. That unfortunately means that Sonia dies, but it also means that we will be getting exactly what happened during the imprisoning war. I do have nitpicks on this game being canon, but I'll touch on that later. I also want to point out that Ganondorf doesn't do this crazy laugh that he did in Tears of the Kingdom for some reason.
Queen Sonia!
It's not really story related, but I just found that to be pretty odd, because it was pretty funny to see Ganondorf had that crazy face. After Sonia's untimely death, Team Rauru had to fight many monsters, including Colgera, or Grimgera. Yeah, the bosses are almost completely different from how they were in Tears of the Kingdom. Not to mention that all their names start with Grim. That is when we will see more of Calamo and the Construct. They team up with Typhon, a random NPC, and defeat Grimgera. Overall, the atmosphere has become really dark, but Rauru was ready to take help from Zora. Now, I do want to point out that I really like how the bosses were really different from how they looked in Tears of the Kingdom. They also have been given some personality, and they can have dialogue as well, which is something I really appreciated. That means that they do add a lot to the story than how much they did in Tears of the Kingdom. Rauru and Zelda went to Lanera region to help the Zora and create an alliance. That is when we meet Kia, who just recently lost her father. Her father's passing made her determined to help defeat the Construct and Ganondorf. Rauru allied with the Zora and made Kia their sage, after they defeated Grimtorok, of course. That was Rauru and Zelda's side, but we also get to see Calamo and Construct's side. Those two fight monsters in Hebra, and that is when we get to meet Rafika. Calamo and Rafika actually met each other before. I find that to be a pretty cool touch. But we get to see Rafika and Arito form an alliance with Calamo and the Construct. Overall, the sages, they have been given a lot more personality. That is really cool, but ultimately, the sages' personality adds a lot to the story. They play a much significant role throughout the entire story than they did in Tears of the Kingdom, who just showed up once their respective temples were completed. But this one, we actually get to see a lot from them. They really fleshed them out, but I'll touch on that in the characters video. After that, Calamo and the Construct head to the Elden region to fight Moragia. After that, Zelda and Rauru join the Gorons. The same thing can be said about the Lost Woods, except Zelda meets Rafika for the first time and we fight Grimgera again. I like the fact that they waited till now to have Zelda meet Rafika. I think it's pretty cool, but nothing too significant to the story, aside from Zelda's first time meeting Rafika. After the Lost Woods, the team wanted to form an alliance with the Gerudo, though Ardi would not accept their help. This forced Sholani to take help from the team without Ardi's permission. I think this is a clever way to bring the team to Gerudo because we would see Ardi and the Gerudo's pride while also giving NPC characters some screen time. I'll touch on that in the characters video. After the battle, Rauru allied with the Gerudo and made Ardi their sage. Now that is just Rauru and Gerudo's team forming an alliance, but what happens next is pretty significant to the story. We would then see Zelda meet Calamo and the Construct. That is when Zelda learns that the Construct contains a shard of the Master Sword, and that is why the Construct resembles Link a lot. The Construct will also be called the Night Construct. Just at that time, the Evo Construct will show up, forcing Calamo and the Night Construct to fight it, while the rest would flee. Of course, they would defeat the Forbidden Construct, and those two would return to Rauru. That is when Rauru will take the sages to the Forgotten Temple and grant them the Secret Stones to the sages. After the battle, using the Secret Stones, Rauru gives a powerful speech to the warriors, determined to save the kingdom. Overall, they really fleshed out on all these characters, giving them a lot of personality and had them play a significant role to the story. And we also got to see what Calamo and Night Construct did and how they played a role during the imprisoning war, and especially how much trouble the Forbidden Construct caused. That is really cool to see, but let's continue on even further. And remember that Linalia also notes down everything in a book so that people in the future can view the history of Ganondorf. And it could help people in the future, as it did for Link in Tears of the Kingdom. After Rauru's group fought Grimgoma, Grimgibdo, and the monsters in the depths, Rauru would give another powerful speech to the warriors, and we would see him share his plan with the group. After the meeting, they would go to the Wind Temple and fight the monsters. At that time, Ganondorf revived the Grim monsters, which forced the group to fight Grimgera again. I just want to point out how much I like the group using the Wind Temple to fight the monsters, and I wish we got to see even more temples shown throughout the story. After all, the temples were the places where we got to fight the bosses, so they should have done something with this in this game. And I feel like they could also fleshed even more on the temples, which would help with the story. After all the battles, Rauru and the group would show themselves to Ganondorf. Just as when Ganondorf attacks the group, the Night Construct attacks Ganondorf, giving the group a chance to lure Ganondorf to the depths. So the Night Construct, he successfully distracts Ganondorf, and the sages would go to the depths, while Calmo, Night Construct, and the NPC characters stay on the surface to fight the monsters. After fighting Grim Gibdo again, the Night Construct would unfortunately collapse. The sages try to fight Ganondorf and try to block his attack. Unfortunately, they failed and they would get severely wounded. That is when Zelda remembers Raru's backup plan.
Should that happen, I have one final tactic. But I'll need you to distract him if we want any hope of seeing it through. I'll be counting on you, all of you, to do what must be done.
During the same time at the surface, the Night Construct wakes up when the Forbidden Construct shows up. And I'll just say, the battle is absolutely insane. We never saw any of this in Tears to Kingdom, and I'm glad that they added this in the story, because it shows how much they played a role in imprisoning War, and how much trouble the Forbidden Construct caused, and how the Night Construct and Calmo saved. At the end, the sword the Construct holds would become the Master Sword. Both the Night Construct and Raru would seal the Forbidden Construct and Ganondorf respectively. That is when both of them would become fallen, unfortunately. This means that the Forbidden Construct is sealed once and for all, and we would never get to see that construct again. But Ganondorf, he was just sealed temporarily for a very long time, and just enough time for Link to have a chance to defeat Ganondorf. But unfortunately, that costed their entire lives. In the end, Lunalia would write down everything in her book and create murals. Calmo would also become the ancient tree stump, not the great Deku tree for some reason, as he's not present in the game at all, so that's kinda weird. And that is also the place where Lunalia would burn those pages about Calmo and the Night Construct, explaining why we never got to hear about them in Tears to Kingdom. They have been erased from history. This also happens after Zelda transformed into Light Dragon, because we do get to see that in the background. Overall, the story is really good, and this game being canon means that we learned exactly what happened during the Imprisoning War. However, this is also the very first Zelda game where Link isn't present at all. He was mentioned a couple of times, but otherwise, the Night Construct took Link's place. This game being canon also means that we wouldn't get to see the sages at all, or the current sages at all, which is pretty unfortunate because they could use a bit more screen time, especially Tulin. I mean, in Tears to Kingdom, we did get to see a lot of them, but I feel like they could use even more. Breath of the Wild's future champions, they didn't get that much screen time in Breath of the Wild, but they did get good amount of screen time in Age of Calamity, and even more screen time in Tears to Kingdom. Except for Teba, of course. So I feel like this current sages could use even more screen time in Age of Imprisonment had this game had a non-canon route. And yes, I made 2 of those videos, so please check that out if you're interested, but they aged pretty poorly. There are also some parts of the story that were shown in Tears to Kingdom that were not touched on in this game for some reason, and I want to point out those to you now. One of the few things about the Imprisoning War shown in Tears to the Kingdom that wasn't shown in Age of Imprisonment was Zelda talking to the sages personally before transforming into a dragon. Granted, this happens after the Imprisoning War, and we barely got any cutscenes post-Imprisoning War, but I feel like they should have touched on this a lot more. We could have gotten one final moment from each of these sages to give even more character to them. I feel like that would have helped their characters enough and give them a great final moment. I feel like if we ever get any DLC in this game, they should add these missions where Zelda will go to the temples and talk to the sages, and even go more in depth than what was shown in Tears to Kingdom. I feel like that would help both Zelda, the sages, and even what happens after the Imprisoning War. It will expand to the story, which is why I wanted to see this. So that's one of the nitpicks I had. But there's also another thing that was not shown in Age of Imprisonment that upsetted me even more. Another major thing the game should have added is when Zelda transformed into the Light Dragon. This absolutely should have been in this game. The majority of the cutscenes in Tears to Kingdom were fleshed out even more in Age of Imprisonment, and I feel like they could have added more. It was already good in Tears to Kingdom, but it was their chance to expand on this cutscene even more. I know I'm just nitpicking at this point, but I feel like this is a missed opportunity that should be added in a DLC. They could show even more about Zelda transforming into a dragon and what she would do after getting her tears out of her eyes. That should have been added in this game. I just wanted to see something even more fleshed out from the cutscene, because we would know even more, and we could have even seen Lanalia's reaction as well, because in the ending, the post-credit scenes, we get to see the light dragon in the background and Lanalia burning the pages. So I feel like this would have been a great opportunity to touch on this. So that's something I really wished if this game had. And that's what I really hope for a 100% bonus. Okay, these lines are recorded 2 weeks after my other lines were recorded. But while I was editing the video, I just realized they did not show a single scene of the decayed Master Sword in Age of Imprisonment, and I have not touched on this in my original script, so I'm explaining this now. Why am I mentioning this? It's because this is a very significant part of the post-imprisoning war story, because that is what led Zelda to consume the Secret Stone. She even had a discussion with Minoru, which is another important moment. We could get missions where Zelda has to carry the Master Sword to Minoru and do the Temple of the Time. This is definitely something that should be touched on if they ever do a DLC. Alright, now we can jump into the conclusion. Overall, I really enjoyed the story in this game. I have nitpicked a lot on the post-imprisoning war. They did not bother expanding on what happened after the imprisoning war, and I really wish they would add on to this in the future. I also wish we got to see Link and the current sages show up in this game, and just to see how a non-canon route would play in the story, and how they would play a role in helping the sages defeat Ganondorf. But that's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked this video, then please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I am trying to reach 200 subscribers. Stay tuned for my gameplay and character reviews later on. With that said, take care everyone, and I'll see you next time. Alright, goodbye.